Hello, this is Dr. Eric Bricker, and thank you for watching AHealthcareZ. Today's topic is, if Kaiser is so successful, why has it not spread to more parts of America? So that's an excellent question. So this is a follow-up video to my initial Kaiser Permanente video that describes it as a vertically integrated healthcare system where it has a health insurance company that collects premium and takes on risk, and it employs the doctors, the nurses, they run the clinics, they run the hospital, so it truly is a vertically integrated healthcare system. And I put this video out there and people are like, okay, Dr. Bricker, it's so wonderful, why is Kaiser not everywhere? It's a fantastic question, and we're going to answer that right now. So, the value proposition, in my opinion, of a Kaiser Permanente plan vis-a-vis another Buca plan or TPA plan, etc., is, listen, it's a lower premium. It's not astronomically lower, but it's competitive or a lower premium. It is a low out-of-pocket cost. This is where it's incredibly compelling, right? Because they offer these HMO plans that have like $5 and $10 office visit co-pays, very low or no deductibles. I mean, these are super low out-of-pocket plans, which for employers that have employees, where that's really important to them, then that's really the 10x value proposition of the Kaiser plan, is the incredibly low out-of-pocket cost to employees. And it is a low choice plan. Again, we're talking PCP gatekeeper model. They're going to dictate that you go to these narrow network Kaiser employed specialists, whether it be a dermatologist or a cardiologist, etc. Now, the question is then, for any business, is that if that is the value proposition, is there product market fit? Does that value proposition or that product, does that fit with the market? And the answer is yes. However, it's not everything for everybody, right? You can't please everybody all the time. In fact, that's a guaranteed way to not have product market fit, because you can never please everybody all the time. You have to have some sort of niche. So really, the quote-unquote niche where Kaiser plans are incredibly popular is with unions and with government employees. And that is sort of how Kaiser became so successful in California, because of the huge California state employee union plan called CalPERS. Okay, and then also the reason why Kaiser is successful in the Washington, D.C. area is because they're one of the choices for the federal employees. So you're talking the largest state in America and the federal government, and the employees of both of those places form the sort of backbone of Kaiser in California and the Washington, D.C. area where they're located. Okay, now in Colorado, they're successful in Denver too. Why is that? They were heavily supported by the AFL-CIO union there. And I'll leave a link in the show notes. There's a fantastic summary article that talks about successes and failures of Kaiser in various markets. I highly encourage you to read it. Now, one of the keys of moving to a new market for the Kaiser vertically integrated market is that it needs a critical mass of local members. In other words, the kind of large number of members in one place that can justify primary care physicians, clinics, cardiologists, dermatologists, ENTs, etc., right? Now, that was created by the unions and the federal employees in those places like California and Washington, D.C. and Denver by the AFL-CIO. Now, as you can imagine, it requires a huge upfront cost to establish, to hire and staff the primary care physicians, the specialists, to build and run the clinics, to build and run a hospital, right? That's incredibly expensive. If you don't, so what are you going to do? It's like the chicken and the egg. You have to build that first, and the members have to be able to come to that immediately. And so the problem is that if you have all that infrastructure set up and you don't have some sort of large critical mass that you can very quickly put on that vertically integrated healthcare system platform, then you are totally hosed, right? Because you're just going to be bleeding money while your salespeople out there trying to sell group, sell. And of course, everybody knows the employee benefits sales cycle is incredibly slow and incredibly long. And so as a result, you get this huge problem of massive upfront costs, which if you can't get the members fast, you lose money like crazy and you can't make it work. Okay, now, this is not in theory. This is exactly what happened, because guess what? In the 90s, in the 80s, Kaiser tried to expand to other parts of the country. They were in Texas, they were in North Carolina, they were in New York State, they were in New England, and guess what? They are not in any of these places anymore because it failed. And why did it fail? Okay, because they had no large employers like a huge state employee union or the federal government or another union that could provide that critical mass of employees, right? They didn't have that in Texas. They didn't have it in North Carolina. They didn't have it in any of these places. Okay, so that was problem number one. Why? So the plans when they were starting, they were just bleeding money. The Kaiser plan in Texas was just bleeding money. It was not on secure financial footing in the 90s when they're trying to do this. The other problem that they had was that the local physicians were hostile to the Kaiser model. And what do I mean by that? They're like, oh, look, they just want to take your premium, and then they just don't want to provide care for you. And so especially in the article, there's information about, in the state of North Carolina, how the other local doctors and hospitals would talk bad about the Kaiser model and say, look, it's not real healthcare. They're not going to treat you. They just want your money. Now, in Texas, there was even, back and forth lawsuits between the insurance department of the state of Texas and Kaiser. I'm not here to get into the weeds of the back and forth on that, but what I'm here to say is that the combination of the critical mass necessary of employee members plus the hostile environment really created headwinds for Kaiser's expansion in the 90s. Now, if they try to do it again here in 2020, could they be successful? I don't know, but that's the explanation for why Kaiser can be so successful in California, in the Washington, D.C. area, Colorado, etc., and yet not be found all over America. And thank you for watching AHealthcareZ.